君は私が知る限りで最も優秀な呪術師だ。奴の目的を阻止してくれ。
Altar. As the morning sun rises in full, the mist that looms over the region begins to dissipate. In a corner, away from others' notice, you arrange your ceremonial robes and glance at the altar steps that grow clearer before your eyes.
準備は整ったのか？
There are people talking at the other end of the stairs. The man who spoke first whispers a few more words to his attendant. With his movement, the last waves of mist billows outward and disperse.
彼女に登ってくるよう伝えなさい。他の者は下がっていい。
His words are like an unspoken command. Before the voice fades, the man and woman dressed as servants beside you take a few steps back. Only you remain standing in place, and only you are permitted to stay here.
いいか。呪文を唱え始めたら、私がどんな姿になろうと止めてはならない。
I understand, Your Majesty.
では来るんだ。以前と同じ呪文を使いなさい。
I understand. The last sentence isn't a reply to anyone, merely a whisper to yourself to focus and stop hesitating. The more you ascend the stairs step by step, the clearer the silhouette of the man they called His Majesty becomes. Perhaps those who were just ordered to retreat could never imagine that Artem, the Archon currently ruling this continent, is now standing in the center of the pool at the highest point of the altar with his back to you as he unbuttons his shirt, allowing the faintly glowing water ripples to entwine with his skin. At first, only he is muttering in an unknown language. Soon, you two begin chanting softly. Though art descended from the divinities, entrusted to us to sustain. As sword and shield, as skills of law, dwell upon my flesh. The cold, clear water in the pool churns more and more violently and condenses into clusters of splashes that rise into the air. At the same time, an intricate dark red pattern emerges on Artem's unblemished shoulders and neck, from which emanates a flickering glow. It is as though some living creature was forcibly roused from slumber to lash onto its hooves. No matter how many times you witness it, this thought always surfaces. Those shock answer the call of boundless ambition, bending to my will.
問題ない。栄唱を止めるな。
At some indiscernible moment, Artem seems to be pierced by an invisible force. You hear him gasp several times despite his attempts to suppress them. Since Artem insists, then you forcibly quell the urge to cease your incantation and utter the final line, until death scatters all to the winds. Your Majesty?
アンズナ、終わった。
Artem appears to unwind considerably after a deep breath. His back returns to its original pristine state and the strange pattern vanishes. To be more precise, that pattern is more of an emblem. The emblem symbolizes an Archon's power, proof that Chaos, the divinity who holds sway over all creation, has bestowed their favor upon us. Among the many races, Chaos selected those capable of draconic transformation and granted the emblem to the wisest sage among them who most revered order, tasking him with governing all. This is the origin of the Archon system. The Archon receives immeasurable wisdom and magic from the divinity to maintain balance within this continent. But the immensely potent emblem is often a burden to the one who bears it. Even the mighty dragon shifters can't escape that. That's why Artem needs someone to periodically assess the emblem of and his own physical state. Thanks to your scholarly pursuits in emblemology, Artem recognized your capabilities and you have occupied this vital role ever since. Although Artem's body exhibits certain reactions during past ritualistic ceremonies, the severity pales in comparison to today. Relative to before, Artem's discomfort during the ritual just now seemed more pronounced. Is it possible? No, conclusions cannot be drawn before a thorough examination. Your Majesty, your emblem. Long before you can voice your concerns, you hear a rustling sound beside your ear. Following the noise, you see Artem donning his coat, conveniently obscuring the emblem's resting place on his back.
わかっている。紋章の話なら後でいい。もうこんな時間だ。まずは私と本殿に戻り、公務の処理に当たるように。
But as if savoring your final opportunity to inquire further, he pauses momentarily while descending the altar steps and glances back.
ありもしない可能性を考慮するより、今は目先の問題や考えうる未来に目を向けるべきだろう。
Throne room. On the journey back to the throne room with Artem, a profound silence reigns, broken only by the echo of your footsteps. The imposing door soon slowly swings shut behind you. Save for the Archon's throne, the grand table in the great hall is already fully occupied by officials. At the far end of the table, the sky is fractured into pallid shards by the window panes. Through them, you can glimpse the festive banners fluttering outside. The decorations are up. In a few days, this continent will celebrate its National Day, the Night of Chaos. By then, the entire nation will enjoy a holiday to honor Chaos blessings. Thus, before the festivities commence, the Archon must conclude all governing affairs, such as summoning trusted officials to preside over the final court of justice preceding the festival.
待たせたな。では補佐官諸君、発言を許可する。
The aides Artem refers to are all the officials seated at the table, yourself included. The aides present cases to be deliberated and judged by the Archon, a frequent practice Artem instituted after assuming power. There is also a hierarchy among the aides. Having served alongside Artem the longest, you have been granted the position of chief. However, the Court of Justice today differs somewhat from the norm. The aides all wear a hesitant expression.
陛下、首席補佐官殿、次の案件ですが、いささか危険な内容を含んでおります。
Perhaps he dares not to openly recite its contents, or maybe he wants you to review it first. An aide named Nix gingerly passes a scroll your way. Finding it peculiar, you lower your gaze and unfold the parchment. This states...
読み上げるんだ。
Last night, the royal knights reported that due to controversies about an opera performed by the Emerald Troupe within the city, its members were questioned following the performance. It is said that there was some conflict between the two parties.
問題の内容というのは
In essence, the protagonist in the play slays the Archon to gain wisdom and power. He took the emblem from the corpse to usurp the throne.
力を奪うか。
The implication of the words is glaringly evident, sufficient to strike fear into the heart of anyone associated with it. This is what gave rise to the other eight's reluctance to speak.
補佐官諸君、君たちはこのオペラが先代の執政官九条明人と私の間にあったことを風刺していると、そう言いたいのか？確かに私は彼を殺害し保有していた紋章を奪った。正真正銘の君主殺しだ。
もちろん違います、陛下。
Artem disregards Nick's whisper, protests, and instead glances at you. After all, the eights each have their areas of expertise. Among them, you possess the deepest understanding of the emblem's properties and what really happened at the time. The emblem bestows the power its bearer dreams of, but the incantation involved also influenced the bearer's psyche. As such, most archons throughout history have descended into madness, perhaps even bewitched. They prefer to slay their successors rather than relinquishing the emblem. Or they will be unable to withstand the emblem's burden and will ultimately succumb to mental breakdowns. The previous archon, Nilhum, lost control due to his inability to endure the pressure exerted by the emblem. He transformed into a colossal dragon and attacked the city. At that time, Artem, still an 8, subdued him and swiftly evacuated the populace, thus sparing them the fate of losing their lives in the calamity. For Nilhum, who had already lost consciousness and would no longer return to normal, death was instead the most merciful eternal rest others could offer him. Yet the one who granted him peace would inevitably shoulder the accusation of regicide and bear the weighty burden of the emblem. Just as you're immersing yourself in contemplating the bloody history behind the emblem, Artem lightly clears his throat.
大事なのは個人の対面ではなく、国の放棄だ。エメラルド劇団は、国内で登録された正規の劇団であり、演目の内容を制限する規約は設けられていない。よって、騎士団側に劇団を糾弾する権利はなく、ましてや、暴力沙汰などもってのほかだろう。放棄は正義と秩序の礎だ。私は過去に幾度となく、それを伝えてきたつもりだが。
You hastily flip through a few pages of the law tome at hand. Some of the articles indeed align with Artem's words. After all, the one who penned this law tome was none other than him. The East, including yourself, had naturally learned from his words and deeds. Furthermore, it would not be an overstatement to regard Artem as the ruler who rebuilt order in this land and enlightened the populace through the law.
大変恐縮ですが、陛下、今回ばかりは苦言を呈したく存じます。このまま処罰を下さなければ、間違いなく悪意ある者たちがつけ上がり、さらなる不測の事態が起きてしまうでしょ
う。悪意というが、何も私の名前を出したわけではないだろう。後ろめたいことがない以上、こちらが過剰に反応する必要はない。むしろ、放棄を無視して民を罰した瞬間、私は本物の暴君となるだろうな。補佐官諸君、この件は正しく処置し、民が平穏に祭日を迎えられるようにしてほしい。
Nix has no choice but to fall silent. You anxiously clasp your hands tightly, steady yourself, and address Artem. But, Your Majesty, are you certain there is no need to clarify the truth to the people? Allow me to inform them about the emblem. That way, Artem will no longer be misunderstood by the people.
その必要はない。すでに何度も話し合ってきたことだ。他の者も忘れたわけではないだろう。紋章の件は神との契約に関わる。迂闊に明かしてしまえば混乱や恐怖を招きかねない。それに
陛下。
それに力を完全に抑えられている今、あえて危険性を伝える意味はない。加えて史跡補佐官に紋章や呪術の専門知識がある以上、どのような想定外の事態にも対応可能だ。つまり彼女が私のそばにさえいれば。
Artem barely suppresses his coughing fit and gazes at you with unwavering certainty. Yet it so closely resembles what happened at the altar. His gaze, far from assuaging your concerns, instead breathes an even more foreboding atmosphere.
先代の死生観のような悲劇は二度と起こることはないだろう。
Following the conclusion of the Court of Justice, Artem departs the throne room early to oversee festive affairs. You gently close the open law tomb. Just as you are about to leave your seat, you hear a set of approaching footsteps.
首席補佐官殿。
Lord Nace, is there something you need?
いえ、大したことではないのですが、私は今日もあのお方の寛大さに、執政官殿の慈悲深さに感嘆せずにはいられませんでした。
As you converse, Nace, who handed you the scroll before her, glances in the direction Artem departed.
なので、心から陛下の健康を祈っております。
Health? It is high noon, and the pale, dazzling sunlight casts the shadows of the festive banners outside onto you and the aide. You furrow your brow, utterly unaffected by this celebratory atmosphere.
はい。ただの思い過ごしであればそれに越したことはないのですが、首席補佐官殿は今日の陛下をご覧になって何かお気づきになりましたか？
Just as you are about to speak, you recall Artem's prior reluctance to discuss his health and the emblem. If he has no intention of divulging anything to them, then you should keep his secrets for him for the time being. But Nick seems unable to rest easy and leans in even closer to you.
優秀な学者が集う王都においても、あなたは1000年に一度の秀才と呼ばれています。さらには補佐官の首席の地位につき、今や陛下に最も近い存在となった。陛下にもしものことがあった場合、我々はあなたに頼るしかありません。なので、もし何かできることがありましたら。
You have my deepest apologies, Lord Nix. You sigh with a smile and gather the weighty law tome. Neither you nor I should wantonly discuss His Majesty's health in public like this. If you are truly concerned, I can assure you of one thing. It is both to appease the aide before you and to quell the doubts that have plagued you since the altar scene. You gaze at the sky outside once more and solidify the notion that was gradually forming in your mind. I soon will have researched for His Majesty as quickly as possible in order to render a judgment. Library's restricted section. Midnight. The lock clicks into place. You raise the lantern in your hand and venture into the depths of the restricted section of the library, gazing up at the endless bookshelves ahead.
首席補佐官殿、こちらです。つかぬことをお伺いしますが、この時間に鍵を取りにいらしたのは、例の研究のためでしょうか？
Yes, I must verify something here. I'm sorry to have troubled you in the middle of the night. Whether driven by your sense of responsibility as chief aide or simply out of concern, you cannot overlook Artem's increasingly unstable physical condition. He appears to be treading the same path all previous Archons have traversed, their health deteriorating day by day, ultimately meeting with misfortune. However, before confirming this conclusion, you must first compare the current situation with the pertinent records in ancient tombs. Although I came to check these records, I've already perused most of the books on emblemology here countless times. You extend your hand, run your fingers along a row of book spines, and withdraw a dusty volume from memory. Emblemology involves delving into divine power. Therefore, the slightest lapse of attention could lead to warrants towards the gods or a reckless discourse on divine methods. At present, research into emblem sorcery is limited. Even the most cutting-edge research remains at the hypothetical stages. But regardless of the hypothesis, most researchers have proposed the same argument. Unless the bearer perishes, the emblem will not be transferred to another. Moreover, the power the emblem can unleash is so immense that it can bewitch the mind. Its history of circulation among archons is essentially a chronicle of power struggles. Whether humans or dragons, they may be blinded by desire or even bewitched, drawn into bloody battles for the emblem. But is it really necessary to perpetuate this cycle of conflict? If there are alternative methods to transfer the emblem, you are too immersed in thought and fail to notice at first that you have directly vocalized your musings. Beside you, the lantern in Nick's hand suddenly wavers. In the flickering flame, his eyes widen in shock.
他の方法。首席補佐官殿、おっしゃる意味がよくわかりませんが。
The emblem is a gift bestowed by chaos, yet that in essence it is an amalgamation of a series of incantations. As long as it is an incantation, there must be a possibility to rewrite its structure. If the incantation can be rewritten to be a method of emblem transfer with a lesser burden that does not involve life and death, then perhaps both dragon shifters like Artem and even humans could also become archons and shoulder the responsibility. Ever since Artem assumed power, he has been refining the laws and nurturing many capable individuals, including his aides. As long as there is a trusted successor, Artem can completely relinquish his burden and no longer bear the infamy unjustly imposed upon him. Once free from the influence of the emblem, Artem's health will most likely recover. Wait, what am I thinking? Rewriting the emblem's incantation? Isn't this precisely recklessly discussing the divine power? You realize that you went too far and turned to Nyx beside you. Lord Nyx, what I meant was... Lord Nyx? No response. Only your shadow sways on the surface of the bookshelves, like some unspeakable existence looming over humans from high above. And before you can find the aid, you hear another set of footsteps coming from deep within the restricted section. You can't help but raise the lantern higher. Although the man has long walked away, his silhouette is all too familiar. Artem, why would he be here? You take one last look at the eerily quiet surroundings and resolutely chase after him. But there's always a certain distance between Artem and you. Just when you are about to catch up to him, he vanishes swiftly around the next corner. Is that really him? How? You circle to the back of the nearest bookshelf, but there too bears no trace of anyone's presence. No, I can't see any signs of him at all. Between Nyx, who has left no trace of where he's gone, and the nearby Artem, who you can only choose the latter. After a chase, a dead end finally appears not far ahead, with Artem's right there. Your Majesty! The instant he turns his head, the bricks of the wall around you, step in the dark of the night, suddenly emit a white glow. And you, unable to stop due to your hasty sprint, are about to charge straight into it.
何をしている？
Someone abruptly yanks you from behind. You fall into his heaving embrace. When you turn around, Artem, who should have been in front of you, is panting heavily, his face a mixture of bewilderment and urgency. I just wanted to go find you up ahead. Wait, why are you here?
追ってきた。
Only now do you realize you are standing at the end of the restricted section. Before you is no dead end, but a massive semicircular window wide open. Take one more step forward and you could easily plummet. Logically, there is no way Artem could have been walking ahead of you. Then, who exactly was that Artem I saw before?
確認事項があって、小1時間ほど前から君を探していたところ、補佐官の一人から鍵を借りて禁書庫に入ったと聞いてな。そのような報告を受けた記憶がなかったから、変に思って来てみたんだ。すると案の定、君が禁書庫で不審な動きを見せ、ここへ向かって走り出すのが見えたというわけだ。聞かせてもらおうか、首席補佐官。どういった経緯でこのような時間に禁書庫を徘徊していたんだ。
Artem quickly reins in his tone of concern, a bit unbecoming for an Archon, and resumed his usual manner of speech. You have no intention of concealing anything and know full well you cannot deceive him, the bearer of the emblem. You can only confess to him honestly. Because I was worried. Not only about your emblem, but many other things as well. If you always take on everything alone, it will become increasingly difficult for you. So I often think it would be so good if there was something within my power I could do to share your burden. You might be overstepping your position as his subordinate with this kind of concern and worry for him, but you cannot find more accurate words at the moment. Therefore, you can only remain silent and await the interrogation that may proceed at any time. Artem does not look at you for a while. Instead, he gazes at the city outside bathed in silvery moonlight. Compared to the ever-burning lanterns of the royal capital, the stars in the sky symbolizing the divinity seems to have dimmed. Although the populace have always had various assessments of Artem's role, it is indeed he who has breathed new life into this land you and others depend on. He stares fixedly for a moment, and when he withdraws his gaze, his eyes have softened like the night.
もっと早く気づくべきだったな。そうやって体調を気遣って奔走していたのは、あの聖壇での一件以降からなのだろう。まったく、難儀な性分だ。
Artem does not question you further. Instead, he adopts a gentle tone completely opposite to that in the court of justice. You are not overly surprised by this. You merely nod your head resignedly. In other words, it is precisely because you are the it who has accompanied him the longest that you know his true nature.
だが、そういうところも出会った頃と変わらないな。常に誰かを思いやり、どれだけ無謀だろうと危険を顧みずに助けようとする。
When was that? The capital hadn't yet hung up festive banners. The storm stirred up by battling dragons howled and engulfed everything, raining down endless showers and death.
こちらへ。
Your mind is still hazy. You stumble a bit when pushed towards the throne and nearly fall. Soon, an irresistible force makes you lift your head. The first thing that enters your eyes is the behemoth call on the throne. Dragon? No, it's just an illusion, right? Only dragon shifters can create a phantom of their true form. In that case, it is almost clear who the man before you is. And with the force that made you raise your head just now, it seems there is only one possibility. You're on trial and he's presiding over it. Is he an official in the castle? The man shows a hint of surprise, perhaps as he sees that the one brought before him is just a common human. But that fleeting astonishment is soon covered by something more resolute and cold. He then speaks to you in a deep voice.
なぜ城の付近に現れた？現在は執政官の暴走に伴い、全国民に避難命令が出ているはずだ。
The dragon looms behind him like an enormous shadow. The clicking sound from deep in its throat is like a prelude to imminent flames. You repeatedly warn yourself this is just an illusion to intimidate you and make you cooperate. Then you take the initiative to meet the man's inscrutable eyes. I saw someone injured, so I turned back. If I hadn't taken the injured man away, he couldn't possibly survive.
だが、その人物はこの場にいない。本当に連れて行こうとしたのか？
I can explain what happened. When you found that someone was left behind, you chose to return only after you had first confirmed that you could safely bring them back with the spells you had learned. But just as you were about to reach the man, you were suddenly repelled by an invisible barrier of unknown origin. By the time you came back to your senses, you had already been brought to the throne room for questioning.
説明？
The man before you seems to read your thoughts directly and allows the dragon illusion behind him lash its steel fiercely.
まったく。事実を得得した程度で英雄気取りとは。相手が医者を必要としているのかどうか、本当によく考えたのか？
But
答えるんだ。
as those words land, you suddenly feel an indescribable pressure. The dragon behind the man abruptly spreads its wings. You can feel an almost uncontrollable power coursing through the throne room. You can barely resist it.
もし君が救おうとしていた相手が、私のような主君殺しと呼ばれる人間だったと言ったら、君はどう思う？
Kingslayer?
暴走した九条明人を殺害した後、私は人に戻って地上へと降りた。その際、全執政官の体にあった紋章が私に移り、一時的に意識を失っていたらしい。だが、君が近寄ってくる前には側近が合流していて、助けの必要はなかったそうだ。それ以前に、九条明人の公認執政官である私が、人の助けを必要とすることはない。君が状況をよく観察し、相手の正体や周囲の状況を確認できていたら、このような危険な場所に留まることもなかっただろう。
What I saw at the time was just someone left behind amidst the chaos. No matter who they were or what they had done, I would have gone to them nonetheless. Artem quietly appraises your sweat-drenched face. Just as you grit your teeth and prepare to endure more questions, you suddenly feel lighter. That strange pressure seems to have vanished completely.
興味深いな。私は最初、紋章を使って君に術をかけた。呪術をかじった程度の人間なら、怪我をするか、精神を錯乱させるほどのものだ。だが、君は驚くべき体勢を見せた。君は一体。
Even now, you find his true thoughts elusive. There's a subtle presage within him, as though both your destiny and his are greatly shifting with each word exchange.
忘れてくれ。今はこのくらいにしておこう。
Later, as you echo the thought, Artem gives you a deep, penetrating look. There seems to be a certain inexpressible emotion flickering in his eyes, softening his originally tense expression for a moment.
終わりだと思っているところにすまないが、君の考えている終わりは、ただの始まりに過ぎない。少なくとも、君が今後どう処置されるかは、こちらで話し合って決めることになる。
Following that puzzling remark, it appears Arthur's way of dealing with you is simply letting you stay in the castle and start learning incantations systematically. The more time you spend with him, the more you can personally feel that he is much gentler than he appears. It's just that the identity bestowed upon him by the divinity is to preside over order, so he must show a soft side to others.
やはりこうした方がいいか。
Huh? What? Caught off guard, you settle on the spot facing Artem's open palm.
この城は古い。特に禁書庫のような場所には触れてはいけない生物がいることもある。中には容易に姿を変え、人の心を惑わしてくる種もいて。
Beings, do you sense something, Your Majesty?
今は2人しかいない。かしこまって話さずとも誰も文句は言わないだろう。それからやはり君の直感は鋭いな。君を外まで送り出すという目的のためにも今こちらの提案に乗ってくれると助かる。姿を消した補佐官についても同様、私に任せておくといい。
You gaze at Artem's hand in midair, knowing that this is an irrefutable proposal. Because as the Archon, he has always had the duty to protect others, not let them take risks for him. So you nod and grasp his warm hand. I understand. In the restricted section where the temperature plummets at night, Artem's hand is your only source of warmth. And only here can you briefly share the identities of Archon and Id, and merely walk together quietly as two souls having known each other for a long time. You look at his cape constantly lifted by his steps and feel an indescribable emotion swelling in your heart. Just a bit further and you'll be out of the restricted section, then you'll part ways and... No, I still want to ask him one more thing. For someone lost in thought, saying nothing is precisely a manifestation of the desire to say everything. Unable to bear the silence, you softly call out his name. Artem, have you really never thought of clearing those untrue accusations against you? I can completely help you do that. I want to share your burden. At least in public view, Artem is used to acting alone, and that loneliness often becomes the source of attacks on him. But in fact, he doesn't need to do this at all. If he decided from the start to bear everything himself, why train the axe? Hearing your words become a bit hurried, Artem looks back and gently squeezes your hand.
君は十分よくやってくれている。それに言っただろ。私は一人であっても問題ないと。
But... Artem lightly shakes his head at you.
歩むべき道というのは、誰もが生まれてすぐに、ある程度決められてしまうものだ。君にも、私にも、それぞれに揺らぐことのない使命がある。それを果たすためならば、道中でいくら非難されようと、気にすることではない。それから、今日までずっと考えていたが、君が果たすべき使命は、ここよりもずっと先にある。
Mission? But who exactly gave us our missions? The divinities? As is Artem you are talking with, you subconsciously express your thoughts boldly. Perhaps those who studied incantations all hold this view to some extent. The so-called divinities and gods are merely superior beings who understand the rules of incantations. They are powerful, yes, but not completely above and above comments.
答えが知りたいなら、今後も私と行動を共にし、まずはカースの夜を無事に乗り切ることだな。その後は、おのずと理解していくだろう。
Get through the festival first. Pondering Artem's word, you realize that as he looks back at you, he also glances far into the depths of the increasingly distant restricted section. There's nothing there, Or perhaps that is only as it appears. After that night, you work with Artem over festival affairs as he hopes until the night of chaos finally arrives. Unsure if incidents like the opera will occur in the city, you even draft multiple contingency plans. However, unexpected as it seems, the days leading up to the festival are quite peaceful. In the words of the author, it's as if the city has been blessed by the chaos themselves. Throne Room. At the peak of the festival, the castle becomes the quietest place on the continent. Most Eats have gone to the city or on holiday. Only you remain in the throne room, compiling the scattered documents on the table into volumes. Looks like it's just about done. While stationed at the castle leading up to the festival, you accompany Artem in handling government affairs by day and sequester yourself in the study to research the emblem by night. The current results align with your previous conjecture. Rewriting the incantation rules for the emblem isn't impossible, just risky. I wonder if Artem will agree to let me attempt this. As that thought crosses your mind, a muffled boom of exploding fireworks reverberates from outside the castle. The indigo glass windows are instantly splashed with cascading illusions. In the window's reflection, you can see Artem still sitting silently on the throne. Even through a layer of shadow, you can tell he's been watching you like this for a long time. Do you want to go out and take a look together, Artem? It's a rare occasion. Staying here watching from afar feels like we're missing out on something.
賑やかな場所は不慣れなんだ。
Despite his words, Artem gazes in the direction of the fireworks, just like you. He lightly caresses the throne's armrest for a moment, seemingly pondering something, and finally speaks again.
だが、君の意見も一理ある。このような日に城から出ないというのも確かにもったいないな。人混みを避けつつ城下町を一望できる場所があるから。君も一緒にどうだ？
I shall accept your gracious invitation. With no one else around, you drop your usual respectful way of addressing him and give him a playful, imperfect curtsy. This curtsy seems to evoke a curious illusion between the two of you, as though the next second you'll begin dancing in the empty hall. But you both know this is no courtly social, and you'll never be a traditional noblewoman dancing with him. Artem slightly averts his gaze, as though reluctant to let you see the current Archon stifling a laugh after being amused.
では、少し待っていてくれ。
But after Artem leaves the throne room, you wait a long while without seeing him return. Growing increasingly puzzled, you're about to check the corridor outside the throne room when the Son of Queen. A fierce gust abruptly whips up the hem of your coat. You brush aside your tousled hair and look behind you. There on the terrace outside the other side of the throne room, an enormous creature is slowly descending. Artem! You hurry over, tightly gripping the railing of the terrace. The dragon quietly observing you now is nearly indistinguishable from the knight. No words are needed. You understand what the invitation really is. So, with one last glance back at the throne room to confirm no one sees you vaulting over the railing barehanded, you agilely leap onto the dragon's back. Lake Island. Soaring through the boundless night, you feel your head constantly tossed by the wind, the scenery below gradually growing larger. Only when the dragon touches down slowly do you realize you've been brought to a small island in a lake far from the city center. Another strong gust sweeps past Artem, having shifted back to human form strides over.
人々を怖がらせたり、厄介事を起こさないためにも、気晴らしをする際はいつもここへ来ているんだ。だから、もう少し向こうに休憩できる場所があるのも知っている。
You stroll along the edge of the island for a while and soon find a rock big enough for two to sit side by side. The rock is slightly slanted, so to avoid sliding down, you might sit as close to the person beside you as possible. Sorry, let me scoot over a little bit.
いや、こちらに寄れば問題ないはずだ。
As Artem says this to you, his eyes are fixed on a more distant spot. He gazes not at the sky above the royal capital illuminated by fireworks, but out at the darker lake. Artem, is that... Following his line of sight, you are surprised to see an ornately decorated small boat slowly sailing. Listening closely, you can even hear the people on the boat singing an unknown folk song.
私の同族だ。
Dragon shifters? Artem has never mentioned his people to you before. Not to mention the dwindling numbers and the elusiveness of dragon shifters, only Artem is still involved in politics. You can't help but observe the departing boat with heightened curiosity, imagining where its passengers are headed. Are they traveling by boat at this late hour?
そんなところだ。二度と帰れない旅だがな。ここ数年、私の同族は皆ああして旅立っている。だから、人間たちからは数が減っているように見えているのだろう。
They won't return? You're only discussing other people, but you feel a part of your heart wrench forcefully. When Artem gaze returns, his eyes remain as gentle as the twinkling stars above.
昔からずっと、神は我らの一族に様々な力や知恵を与えてくれていた。だが、そんなことが永遠に続くはずはない。今見ているあの花火は、竜の知恵ではなく、人間が発明したものだ。新たな知恵を授からない限り、時代の主役はいずれ君たち人間となるだろう。
What about you then, Artem?
竜である身として答えるならば、呪術も法器も大陸を管理する術も教えられることは全て教えたつもりだ。だから神からの使命を終えた時、私たちは次なる地へ向かう。それがさっきの彼らが向かった場所、大陸の西の果てだ。権力による支配から離れ、戦争や痛み、死からも解放される場所。そこまで行くことができれば、私たちはもう呪術や紋章に脅かされずに済む。
Artem doesn't explicitly state his plans on the future, but you already have a vague idea. You almost imagine him standing on the deck when you look at the boat on the lake. If he hands over ruling authority to his human aides, including you, and sails away like his kin, then each festival from now on will no longer be like how it is tonight. But is living really necessary for Artem?
君が西の果てに興味があるなら、少し面白い話をしてあげよう。
Actually, rather than interested, gazing at Artem, you shake your head as if to clear your thoughts, but a bizarre feeling in your heart lingers. Artem has never said he wants to live before. Is this really something he's determined to do? And if this is how he truly feels, maybe there are other solutions. You've remained by his side all this time, but it wasn't just to ultimately part ways with him one day. I've made a breakthrough in my emblem research, Artem. Haven't you said so yourself? As long as I'm here, we'll definitely be able to handle all the unexpected situation caused by the emblem. Through Artem's eye, you can almost see your own somewhat anxious expression. Although the research hasn't been fully verified, now may be the chance to share your findings with him. And to go a step further, to convince him here to let you attempt to modify the incantations of the emblem. But I don't want you to go.
何？
You abruptly raise your head. Seeing Artem's surprised look, you realize you've directly voiced your thoughts aloud. No, I mean, as an aid. That's not it at all. The reason you don't want to bid him farewell stems from some other feelings you just can't tell him about. You sigh softly because you realize that hiding this further would only be deceiving yourself. I believe there's more than one way to mitigate the negative effects of the emblem, not just by leaving. Artem, if I say I can find a way to solve this, will you let me try? Just give me a chance to rewrite the incantations attached to the emblem.
待つんだ。
Artem suddenly shakes his head at you and glances towards the castle and capital.
聞こえたか？
Are they still setting off fireworks? Yo. Abruptly, an explosive boom reverberates from afar. A light far brighter than fireworks illuminates the entire sky, mixed with indescribable strange noises. An explosion? You leap to your feet. Artem still stares at the source of the light, his expression dark and inscrutable.
爆発だけじゃない。この音は。
As the emblem's bearer, his perception is undoubtedly better than yours. The eerie contrast between this strange sight and the overly peaceful state of the city in recent days set off alarm bells in your mind. Before you can question further, he shoots you a look, signaling you to leave with him. Throne room. You've barely landed back in the throne room with Artem when a loud cry echoes from the streets below.
暴君を出せ!
Tyrant? The citizens' angry voices mingle with the sound of them scuffling with the knights. Judging from the people's attire, it seems a festive procession heading nearby the castle suddenly changed their celebratory chants when they arrive.
我々はこの時のため長きにわたり沈黙してきた。あの知者は正しかった。今こそ沈黙を破るのだ。
The siege? What are they referring to? It is unlikely to be heard clearly if you shout to the people from a place as high as here, let alone ask what the goal of that young leader is.
何が強大な龍華一族だ。権力欲しさに代々殺し合いを続けてきただけじゃないか。そんな奴らがこの国を統治できるってんなら俺たち人間にもできるんじゃないか。それに今の補佐官たちは全員が優秀な有識者たちだ。いつまでも権力にすがってないでもっと聡明で清い者に王位を譲れ。
But they is only gained their vast knowledge thanks to Artem's teachings over the years. Well, that's a side of history the masters never see. All they witness are the clashes between generations of archons. We can't just stand by and do nothing like before. I have to clear things up. Artem, I'm going to find the other eights.
どうしてだ？
You find yourself standing alone and unsure in the center of the throne room. Artem enters from a side door. The flickering lamps cast dark shadows across his face. Huh?
彼らの主張は間違っていない。現に君は一人の補佐官としてこの国を統治するに足る学識を有しているだろう。それから紋章の呪文を書き換えると言っていたが、君は新たな継承法でも編み出そうとしているのか？今のような死を契機とする異常ではなく、役員を選抜して託すような安全に譲渡できる方法。
Yes, that's right, but how did you... Artem doesn't answer right away. Instead, he observes your face closely.
単なる推測だ。紋章は持ち主に多大な知恵を与えてくれるからな。君が望むのであれば、今この場でやってみるといい。
You mean you're willing to let me attempt to rewrite the incantation of the emblem? But before, you said you could handle it alone. Artem cuts you off with a pointed look towards the window, urging you to take in the view of the city once more. The conflict rages on outside. If people were driven to such unrest by a mere uproar before, the current situation will only lead to more dire consequences. In other words, time is running out for you to act. I understand. At present, there is only one way to quell the people's anger while freeing Artem from his physical torment. And that is to transfer his emblem out of the public eye to another aid, you. Although you've conducted countless studies on this very thing, your throat still goes dry when you actually place your hand on Artem's skin, preparing to chant.
緊張しなくていい。不安なら私の目を見ていなさい。
Okay, I'll begin then. Artem takes a few steps back and sits on the throne while you stand before him, leaning in close. The aura emanating from him fills adults with the tense atmosphere outside the castle. It evokes countless memories. The scent of dust from when you first met him, the tranquil, restricted archives years later, the island near the middle of the lake under a starry sky just this night. Inhaling deeply, you focus your attention on his exposed neck and place your hand over it. You're not really Artem, are you? Throne room. The moment your words fade, a burst of fireworks explodes in the night sky. The dazzling colors brightly illuminate Arthur's faintly smiling face, casting an eerie and undeniable unfamiliar air.
どうしてそう思う？
Call it the intuition of a sorcery researcher. Don't you feel there have been too many strange occurrences in and around the castle lately? The Artem I know is used to shielding others. He wouldn't let them throw themselves into danger alongside him. But now you're allowing me to do something as risky as rewriting the incantation. No, you're not just allowing me. You're even encouraging me to do this, and it isn't the first time something like this had happened.
異常？さすがに考えすぎだろ
You come to the near instantaneous conclusion that the real Artem would never converse with you like this. Yet the aura emanating from the man before you undoubtedly belongs to Artem. It gives rise to an ominous foreboding within you. Unless you fully expose this person who has taken over Artem's body and now speaks to you, the fast tonight will not end. When I first saw the Archon show signs of illness at the Inquisition, and it immediately came to ask me how to handle it. Soon after, and it lent me the key to the library's restricted section, made sure I began researching, and even conjured an illusion so I'd run into the real Artem. It's as though someone planted the idea to find a way to transfer ownership of the emblem in my mind. Then he reinforced, my determination step by step. The only issue is that research often requires a great deal of time. In that case, a riot has been instigated to force my hand.
では、結論は出ていると。
Artem interjects softly. He turns to gaze out the clamoring crowd once more, seemingly unbothered by the threat you posed.
早く決断しなければ、怒った国民が城に押し寄せるかもしれないぞ。
Remember the ancient texts. Whether human or dragon, they may be blinded by desire or even bewitched, drawn into bloody battles for the emblem. It seems that on this night, 100 years later, I've become the protagonist in this little cycle. The one who has guided my actions openly and from the shadows, he is likely waiting for me to seize the emblem and become the next Archon, isn't he?
何度も言うが、それは君の。
The real Artem once warned me. Being capable of shape-shifting and skill at bewitching hearts might be lurking in the castle. In that case, was the aide who spoke to me that night in the restricted section truly himself? And the sage who riled up the people tonight to overthrow the tyrant, is he really human? For a moment, you think the man before you will become enraged, so you tense up and ready a spell to attack. But instead, he closes his eyes as though severing the dissonant noises from outside the castle as if they are a grand opera.
私が君を惑わしたと。私はただ、君と左京の願いを具現化させ、言えずにいた思いを言葉にしてやっただけだ。
Don't change the subject. You...
まだ気がつかないのか。私が左京の意識を奪って接触する前から、お主はすでに欲望に支配されていたんだ。彼と悩みを分かち合いたい。末永く一緒にいたい。そういった欲望を抱いた子供は、単純かつ刹那的で、とても好ましい。
You gasp as an unseen force slams you to the marble floor. You barely manage to prop yourself up as Artem slowly advances. Or more accurately, the unspeakable, unseeable being that has seized control of Artem's body and now addresses you directly. When did this start? When he briefly left the throne room and returned to invite you to the island? Or was it after?
力になりたいと望むなら、左京の代わりに紋章を受け継ぎ、同じ道をたどればいい。こいつの容体は日ごとに悪化しているが、君なら問題なく、私の力を行使できるはずだ。
Blessings? Then your eyes widen suddenly. A suspicion that formed when you first confronted the man but remained unconfirmed now eclipses all other thoughts. A being powerful enough to easily control Artem, with motive to actively sow turmoil in pursuit of a new emblem bearer, only one possibility remains. But before you can voice the answer, Artem suddenly lets out a short, pained gasp. As though he is fighting to suppress a constantly surging agony, as if he is desperately pushing back against an invisible force.
彼女から離れろ。その手で彼女に触れるな。
Artem, is that you? You?
離れるんだ、カース。
Though only the two of you are here, a fierce gale tosses you back. It sends you sliding towards the balcony. In this final moment, the divinity who has yet to show his true form, the one Artem commanded to withdraw, unfolds a curtain of black mist and swallows you whole. Disoriented and weightless, you drift aimlessly in a sea of darkness, unable to discern any sense of direction. Artem, where are you?
本当に何も分かってないな、お主は。
A deep voice rumbles in response.
お主と左京、それから世界にとっても、お主が紋章を受け継ぐのが最善の選択なのだ。
Your chaos? Then why did you cause all this disorder? All your education thus far has taught you that chaos is the divinity who bestows blessings and enables the Archon to maintain order in the world. And it is for this very reason that the people hold a festival tonight to express their gratitude.
こんなこと？私はただ秩序を守っているに過ぎない。いい機会だ。何がこの世界を支えているのか、その真実を見せてやろう。
A howling wind assails your ears once more as you scream against the unending dust whip into a frenzy. As far as the eye can see, only endless ruins sprawl out before you. In the distance, the castle too is shrouded in a layer of gloomy ash. This isn't the throne room. Where did chaos take me? In the wake of the Neil Hume incident, Artem had the area around the castle rebirthed. This place should be lush with greenery. You struggle to sit up. You instinctively want to walk towards the castle. But at that moment, a piercing screech rends the sky. Artem. The massive dragon tumbling through the clouds is undoubtedly Artem. But another dragon sunbursts from the cover of clouds and barrels toward Artem, a torrent of flames shooting out from its mouth. Two dragons? That's Neil Hume? The dragons are too far away. Even sprinting with all your might towards where they are fighting, you can only cover a meager distance like a crawling ant. But Neil Hume is already gone. Why is he? Your mind reels, the scene before you achingly, dreadfully familiar. This is the past you experienced firsthand. Chaos conjured this illusion to make you relive the conflict that spawned all the suffering and turmoil. Only this time, you'll see even more clearly. You will see exactly how Artem obtained the emblem once again. Wait, is the emblem already started to transfer? With a tortured roar, Neil Hume's reckoning form begins to disobey him. His wings falter. An unnatural bright radiance suffuses his body as the dragon beside him desperately tries to slow his plummet. Huh? Why is Artem? Artem is clearly also in the throes of some terrible agony. None of your emblem research to date has ever recorded a case like this. They're both going to fall. No time for hesitation. You fire off a spell at breakneck speed to cushion both Artem and Neil Hume's fall. The instant you finish chanting, a severe uncontrollable pressure assails you. It's as though an invisible current rampages through the area unchecked. You almost vomit from the overpowering nausea. A tangled incantation? The term flashes through your mind. This is an exceedingly rare case. It occurs only when multiple potent spells collide and produce unpredictable results. If the spell you cast did indeed fuse with the emblem incantation currently transferring between Neil Hume and Artem, not even Chaos himself can accurately foretell what will unfold next.
先生、これは。
Is that Artem speaking? Artem, where are you? Your shot vanishes. It is devoured by a boundless expanse of searing white light. Neither Artem nor Neil Hume realize you're there, or rather, They remain unaware that the tangle has forged a sensory link which allows you to witness the emblem's succession in its entirety.
一体何が起きているんです？
Beyond the reaches of your sight, the brand of the emblem may be searing itself into Arthur's back at this very moment. He clearly didn't anticipate the process of obtaining a new power to be so excruciating. All the while, Neil Hume's life force rapidly wanes.
すまない左京。私がもっと早くに真相を解明できていれば、紋章は神からの贈り物などではなく、神が全ての理想主義者に与えた禁断の果実だ。
Forbidden fruit? You gasp, but they don't hear it. It is carried away by the ceaseless winds drifting between the two.
左京、その紋章はお前に際限のない力と知恵を与えるだろう。だが同時にそれは終わりのない混沌と呪いを背負うことにもなる。お前は誰よりも聡明で広い視野を持っているから、余計にこの世界の負の部分が見えてしまうかもしれない。カースのやつはその様を笑いながら傍観し、お前を飲み込もうとするはずだ。そして全てを飲み込んだ後は次なる理想主義者を探し始める。
So this is the true reason behind the conflicts that plague each generation of Archons. The divinity exploits people's yearning for an ideal world and lures them in, and even now he aims to make you the next offering of the Artem.
では先生は？
そもそも紋章は存在すべきものではない。私は一度神とのつながりを断とうとしたが、それは明確な失敗に終わった。すまない左京。これがこの世の真相だ。我々が追い求めてきた絶対的な秩序や正義は初めから存在しないのかもしれないな。現に行われているのは神による権力の再配置に過ぎない。このことを知った今、お前はこれからどうする？
Artem shouts something else to his mentor, but you can no longer hear him. The endless void engulfs you completely. Wordlessly, it declares that what chaos wished to show you has concluded for now. As the blinding light slowly dissipates, you find yourself still sprawled raggedly on rubble and sand. Artem and Nilhum are nowhere to be seen. Grains of yellow sand skitter towards you. You lift your head to see a figure approaching.
どうだ？私の意志に逆らえないと理解したのであれば、かつての左京が九条にしたように、1秒でも早くあいつを苦しみから解放してやるべきだ。それこそああして暴走してしまう前にな。
Why choose me of all people as the emblem's next bearer?
有能な個体だったからだ。もちろん左京に似ているという点が最も重要だがな。自分よりも他人を気にかけ、必要とあらば危険を顧みずに動き、常により良い未来を考えている。心配しなくてもお主の適性は現状かなり高い。もし失敗してもすぐに次の継承者を探してやろう。つまりおとなしく継承に協力するのであれば、命ぐらいは助けて。
That's a lot of nonsense. You're just looking for a mortal vessel to bear your emblem to control this land through its ruler. The sand churns more violently at your feet as chaos laughter echoes from somewhere beyond your sight. Does he think you overestimate yourself? Or does he truly view all creations as mere playthings, your fury no more than trifling entertainment?
言いたい放題だな。お主がそこまで拒むというのであれば、私も強制はしない。だが、私に見捨てられるということは、この地に幽閉されることを意味するのだぞ。忘れているかもしれないが。
Though he faced with the retreating winds, Chaos Partington lingers heavily with malicious glee.
お主が今経験していることは現実のものではない。元の世界で紋章に抗っている左京と再会したいのであれば、今すぐこんなところから出るべきではないか。
The Gale snatches away his final mocking words. You're left trapped and alone, a prisoner of the endless sands. I have to hurry. Any illusion can be shattered by exploiting its flaws. If the scene before you is indeed a mirage woven by chaos, then no matter how realistic it is, it must bear traces of his sorcerous meddling. Yet everywhere you look, from the howling winds to the grid of sands against your skin, it all feels disturbingly uncanny real. This one too. I need to get out. Now. Despite repeated failures, you stagger, but trudge onwards. Is that Artem over there? Hearing his voice spurs you into a run, heedless of the rubble that threatens to trip you at every turn. At the edge of the rolling sands, Artem leans heavily against a crumbling wall, gasping for breath. Artem? Driven by pure instinct, you lunge toward him, only to stop short merely pieces away. If this illusion replaced the past, then his trusted it should arrive any moment to carry him away from here. Back when you were unaware of Artem's identity, you had doubled back in an attempt to save him, only to unexpectedly wind up captured and brought back to the castle. From that point on, your fates become entwined. But now it seems Artem has no intention of leaving at all.
先生、どうして。
He seems lost in the echoes of Neil Hume's words, mumbling through gritted teeth as he fights to endure the searing agony of his wounds. It's as though he cannot bring himself to believe his mentor, yet has no choice but to accept the chaotic reality unfolding before him. Whether or not he can recover from his mentor's devastating blow, if his injuries are not tended to properly, the damage will be irreversible. But Artem has already inherited the emblem. Why isn't he treating himself? And where is the one man to take him away? Unless... You attempt to sort through the tangle of thoughts crowding your mind, only to halt abruptly as your anxiety reaches its peak. No, this isn't right. From the very beginning, Chaos has been playing a game of semantics. This place exists outside your present reality. Reality's opposite can mean either an illusion or the past. So that's why I couldn't find any flaws in the illusion, no matter how I tried. Because the divinity sent me directly into the past. With thoughts still reeling in your head, you find yourself murmuring the final answer. In a daze, you raise your head to stare ahead once more. Then, the Artem I see before me now. Is his true self from the past? The sting of sand pelting your skin gradually fades from your senses. As your future self observes his past self, words fail you at this moment. If you rewrote the emblem's incantation right here and now, could you spare him the suffering it will inflict upon him years later? If you should shoulder the endless burden in his stead, would he still speak of living on that night by the lake? As for yourself, can you bear the consequences of altering the future?
誰かいるのか。
At some point, you realize your cheeks are damp with tears. Artem struggles to drag himself closer to your position. He seemed to have mistaken you for an intruder who shouldn't be here. Artem! The instant he collapsed from blood loss, you can no longer restrain your voice. He seems to have slipped into semi-consciousness. If you take one more step towards him, everything that follows will unfold differently. You begin to emerge from your hiding place and make your way towards him. Having made this choice, you ready yourself to be discovered by others at any moment, Lady It who should be coming for Artem. Huh? In theory, people from the future shouldn't casually show themselves to those of the past. As long as I don't browse Artem, he won't see me. But what about his aide who might show up at any second? And the me from the past who will rush over to help. To be safe, you wait in place for a while. However, the aide who Artem claimed would appear, who should exist in this past, is still not here. Why isn't anyone coming? You haven't done anything thus far that would alter the future. The one time you attempted to cushion Artem and Nilhum's fall with a spell, it didn't even work. So who exactly reached out to help him in this critical moment?
歩むべき道というのは、誰もが生まれてすぐに、ある程度決められてしまうものだ。君にも、私にも、それぞれに揺らぐことのない使命がある。それを果たすためならば、道中でいくら非難されようと気にすることではない。それから、今日までずっと考えていたが、君が果たすべき使命は、ここよりもずっと先にある。
Mission? But who exactly gave us our missions? The divinities?
答えが知りたいなら、今後も私と行動を共にし、まずはカースの夜を無事に乗り切ることだな。その後は、おのずと理解していくだろ
う。That is typical Artem. He'd hint at the path you are meant to take with comforting words, all while quietly watching over you. Almost as though he personally witnessed your future self a long time ago.
君は一体。忘れてくれ。今はこのくらいにしておこ
う。Later?
終わりだと思っているところにすまないが、君の考えている終わりは、ただの始まりに過ぎない。
No one else ever came. Since Artem was indeed safe on this day, the only one who could have been in contact with him is your future self. And Artem has known this all along. He has been constantly guiding you until you have realized where your true mission lies. Your approaching him here won't change the past or future, but rather conforms precisely to your destiny. Perhaps not even chaos anticipated this. When faced with the ship of fate, even the divinity's choices amount to no more than a single rivet upon its heel. After all, we're all traveling an unknown path until we reunite at the starting point we call the end.
君は
Shh, don't speak yet. You crouch down beside Artem, shielding him from the dust swept into a frenzy by the raging winds. He let out a small cough and glances down at his chest. A faint golden glow emanates from within as your healing incantation takes effect. As the pain gradually subsides from his body, he studies you with a hint of wonder.
初めましてのはずだが、この懐かしさは一体。
Artem seems as though he's about to inquire after your name, but shakes his head slightly at the last moment.
忘れてくれ。今のは誤解を生みかねない発言だった。すまないな。あまりに多くのことが起きすぎて、少し混乱していたようだ。
I know. Compared to the Artem of the present, you indeed already know the secret of his emblem and everything he will face. Precisely because you've clearly seen all that awaits him, a profound sense of pity wells up inside you as you may decide. They are still ignorant of the burdens of the future.
分かっている。君は
I can't fully confide in you just yet, but there are at least a few things I want to tell you now. Your ideals have never been shattered, Artem. You can see your own reflection in Artem's eyes. Like him, you're covered in dust, your hair thoroughly tousled by the fierce winds. Even if he's surrounded by endless chaos and ash in the days to come, you still hope his eyes remain as clear as they are in this moment. So you pour out the words you've longed to say ever since witnessing Nilhum's fate. You carefully enunciate each syllable for him to hear. You've never strayed from the right path, so no matter what you hear from others, never doubt yourself. Because at the end of your future, you will see me there waiting for you. So just hold on a little longer. Just a little longer, and then you catch the sound of hurried footsteps barely audible beneath the howling winds as someone rushes this way. Artem clearly notices as well, turning to look in the direction of the noise.
あれは
You're well aware of who's approaching. You smile at Artem with a soft sigh. She's finally here. The you from the past, heedlessly of the danger, come back simply because someone was trapped here. Just as Chaos' earlier assessment, you were so pure and so recklessly throwing yourself into the currents of fate. You'll find me again very soon.
見つけて、その後はどうなるんだ？
Consider my next words as my promise to you and a prophecy for the future. You are the scales of justice and order. No matter what happens, you will not be shaken, and I will never leave your side. After you finish speaking, Artem falls strangely silent. As the new archon bearing the emblem, he easily grasps such a simple implication. There's no need for you to say more.
では、約束だ。
You sense the powerful flow of magic surging around you as Artem makes use of the emblem for the first time since inheriting it. Using this power bestowed by the divinity as a medium, he can help you break through the boundary between past and future and return you to the time where you belong. So that's what's happened. The you from the past was knocked unconscious by the immense shock wave of this power. This is why everything that followed unfolded as it did. Which explains Artem's look for realization upon seeing you in the throne room back then. It wasn't his first time meeting you.
無限に広がる未来の中においても、私は一目で君を見つけられるだろう。だから、その時まで、どうか君にも私を覚えておいてほしい。
As his power envelops you and you begin to float upwards, you glance back at him once more. His eyes overflow with a soft, starlit glow, as though he's been watching you like this for a long, long time from the past into the future.
終わりと呼ばれる始まりの地で、私も君を待っているとしよう。
And I'll be waiting for you too. But there's still so much you want to tell him. The things you couldn't tell him in the restricted section of the library and on the island, and so much more. As you call out his name, he grips your wrist tightly, as if he also wishes for you to linger here a little while longer. The instant you fall back into his embrace from midair, a dazing sense of weightlessness reminds you of the throne room in the future. Many years later, on the night of that festival, you will race onto the balcony, leap over the railing, and gently land upon the back of Artem in his dragon form. Will he remember that night if you brush aside his bangs now and press a soft kiss to his forehead? As you put that thought into action, everything around you collapses like falling rain, dragging you down with it. Throne room. The sensation of free fall pulls you ever downward until a dull pain jolts through you and you open your eyes to find yourself back in the throne room. I made it back. What happened? The place where Archons and Eats once convened had been reduced to a scene of near total destruction. Through a wall torn open, you gaze up at the sky, which is now tinged with the golden light of dawn, and at the edge that light, two dragons rise into the air, each seeking to rend the other asunder. If one of those dragons is Artem, then the other must be Chaos. Artem once hinted that Chaos can easily change his form. The only one with motive to engage Artem in a death match right now is the so-called divinity. But before you can unleash a spell to support Artem, the dragon manifestation of Chaos suddenly lets out a piercing shriek. The sound reverberates in your ears, followed by a thunderous crash as someone plummets to the ground before you. Hold on, I'll help treat your wounds right away.
問題ない。少し休めば大丈夫だ。それより君こそ。
He's lying. The recent clash seems to have drained his strength. It caused him to lose his draconic form and fell. The wounds inflicted by Chaos are exceedingly strange. Your healing spell takes effect far more slowly than usual. Yet Artem doesn't seem to notice at all. He gently places his hands over yours, which are currently trembling.
無事に戻ってくると信じていた。君なら必ずカースの幻惑にも打ち勝つとな。カースが術を行使した後、私はどうにか奴の制御下から離れ、君が戻ってくるまでの時間稼ぎをしていたんだ。品書庫で違和感を覚えた時から分かっていた。奴と私はいずれ決着をつけねばならないと。
A reckoning? Artem, you can't possibly mean...
先生の叶えられなかった望みは今この場で私が果たす。それが私に与えられた使命だ。
He's referring to Nilhim's desire to sever the Archon's ties with Chaos before he lost control, to stop the divinity from ruling this land with invisible strings.
そのためにも君には今ここでやってもらいたいことがある。
Before Artem can continue, you've already rushed over to embrace him. Even when completely bathed in the light of dawn, his hand gradually turns cold.
聞いてくれ。すでに紋章の力が不安定になりつつあるんだ。おそらくカースは私を攻撃し、先生のように暴走させるつもりなのだろう。君は私が知る限りで最も優秀な呪術師だ。奴の目的を阻止してくれ。頼む。君の前でだけはあんな姿になりたくないんだ。
The divine dragon circles high above, poised to dive at any moment like the shadow perpetually looming over this continent. Gritting your teeth, you nod and pull Artem even tighter against yourself. Leave it to me. The very reason I returned here is to fulfill our promise. Do you still remember, Artem? I once said this to you. You are the skills of justice and order. No matter what happens, you will not be shaken, and I shall never leave your side. As you fully commit yourself and recite the incantation you've chanted countless times before, a sense of relief washes over you. As the capricious hand of fate steers you to this exact moment, never have you seen your mission with such piercing clarity. As for the criticism or hardships encountered in the process of fulfilling that mission, they are no different from dust scattered by the wind. Though art descended from the divinities entrusted to us to sustain, as sword and shield, as skills of law dwell upon my flesh. From this day forth, I command thee.
何を待て、すぐにやめるんだ。
Once started, an incantation cannot be forcibly paused midway. After what happened the previous night, you've come to understand that as long as you act within the rules set by the divinities, victory will forever elude you. In that case, the only path forward is to break free of those rules entirely.
呪文の書き換えなどまだ早い。無理に組んだところで失敗するだけだ。それにカースも。
If we don't do something now, there will never be another chance. The complex incantation affixed to Arthur's emblem proves exceptionally difficult to modify without leading to chaotic disruptions. You feel the power within you surging wildly, nearly out of control. As you force the changes, gritting your teeth, you manage to chant one more line. Before you can finish, the draconic form of chaos in the sky lets out a thunderous roar, barely maintaining balance.
君は何を
If we can't sever your connection to chaos herself, then we'll force him to sever the connection himself. I haven't rewritten much of the emblem's incantation, but it's enough for my offensive magic to reach chaos directly through this link. If chaos values his own life, he'd best relinquish the emblem soon.
やめるんだ。君がしようとしていることは神殺しに他ならない。これまでに経験してきた苦しみが倍以上になって降りかかる大罪だ。そうなったら最後待っているのは死すらも許されぬ生き地獄。
Then let us both bear the burden of infamy and sin. You lower your head, gently stopping Artem from saying more. Before the near-blessed divinity, you exchange secret vows, laughing as you discuss walking an unknown path together. I don't mind sharing similar burdens with you. After all, didn't we already make that promise? At the end of your future, you will see me there waiting for you.
道の先。
Artem seems to want to tell you something but now is hardly the time for heart-to-heart talks. He tilts his head out slightly, nuzzling your hair. As you glance up at the dragon writhing in apparent agony above, he finally speaks.
なら今すぐ目を閉じて3秒数えるんだ。3秒経ったら目を開けてバルコニーへ向かって走れ。その後は私に任せなさい。
Yeah, I'm ready. No human has truly witnessed the moment a dragon shifter reveals their true form. Some scholars claim they only saw a blinding flash, followed by a dragon's robe they would remember for a lifetime. As you charge towards the utterly shattered balcony railing, you are greeted by nothing but the golden radiance of dawn flooding your vision. Yet you feel no fear. Leaping into the air, the wind caresses your face like a lover awaiting your kiss. Then everything in your sight begins to plummet at breakneck speed until, at the last instant, a dragon soars upwards holding you on his back. capital city. As the two dragons hurtled towards each other once more, the residents of the city craned their necks in unison. The Archon they firmly regarded as a tyrant now drags the other dragon towards the uninhabited outskirts. The people who were poised to storm the castle the previous night gazed at the receding fiery glow as if waking from a dream until a child tugs at the woman's sleeve.
お母さん、あれって流れ星？お願い事をしてもいいかな？
Silence falls. They simply watch, silent, until the two dragons vanish completely into a dazzling light of dawn. Altar. Many years later, the sacred altar, once accessible only to the dragon shifter archons and their aides, has long fallen into ruin. It becomes a part of the suburban ruins. In the words of the current archon, this is now an era belonging completely to humans. Naturally, there is no need to rely on the power of the other races or the divinities. Or, on a rare day of rest, children from nearby villages play hide and seek among the massive stones half buried in the lush grass. The child running the fastest suddenly halts. He looks up at the adult he nearly collided with. The man seems utterly unbothered. He bends down to pick up the tuft of grass the boy dropped and hands it back to the child.
ほら、落としたぞ。
ありがとうございます。お兄さん。
The man's attire is far too peculiar for a villager. Perhaps that's why the boy glances back after running towards his friends.
お兄さんは町の方から遊びに来たんですか？
ああ、遊びに来たというよりは、旅の前に軽く寄っただけだがな。
The child furrows his brow, somewhat confused. After all, the man before him carries no luggage whatsoever.
旅？
そうだ。私はこの地で大切な人と多くのことを経験したから、そろそろ次の冒険に出かけようと思ってな。君たちも大人になって年を取れば、いずれはそこへ行くことになるかもしれない。
そこってどこ？
The man doesn't seem to hear him for a moment. Instead, he walks down the grassy slope. The children chase after him a few steps, only to spot a small boat docked in the river channel below the altar. On the tiny deck, a young woman welcomes the man aboard with open arms, an intimate gesture.
あれ？あんなところに船が。
No boats have ever docked here before, let alone one so exclusively decorated. The children drop their eyes in disbelief. When they open them again, the river still gently laps at the shore, but the boat and the people on board have vanished. Only a gentle breeze glides over the field no longer known as a secret altar, as though someone had truly been here. After their brief stay, the man and the woman set sail westward like a lost legend.
長い航海だったな。今夜はこの村で休むとしよう。
After the battle, chaos vanished and Artem was left with some major wounds. Thus, he made arrangements with the other east and left the capital for a long journey to recuperate. The destination is a land to the far west, a place of legends among Arthur's people. Legends say that once you reach there, all suffering and death will be left at the door, leaving one with only a long and peaceful life to enjoy. Artem, discover your eyes look lighter now.
そのようだな。時間が経つにつれ、良くも悪くも過去にあったことは薄れていっているようだ。
Yeah, and from here on, an endless future stretches before us. Artem, I saw a child on the street looking curiously at the gemstone on your chest while I was walking towards you earlier.
何？すでに隠蔽の呪文は行使しているし、身なりも一般的なものに見えているはずだが。
Don't worry, we haven't been exposed. I'm just quite curious about that gemstone myself, so...
そうか。常に身につけているからな。気になるのもうなずける。これは、君関連のものだ。この宝石には、記憶を保管する力があって、私はここ数年、君との記憶を保管してきたんだ。どれだけ月日が経とうと、いずれ旅が終わろうと、この宝石を撫でれば、すべてが昨日のようによみがえる。
Autumn, our journey together has gone on for a long time. After we set sail tomorrow, will we reach our destination at the edge of the continent?
うん。この羅針盤曰く、西に向かって海流を越えれば、永遠の地にたどり着くそうだ。龍華一族はその常夏の地を、ウェルノーと呼んでいたな。
Everlasting greenery?
ああ、私も初めてで、噂程度しか知らないが、温暖な気候があらゆる怪我や病気を治してくれるらしい。
Then the injuries from your battle with chaos could be healed there too.
そうだな。それより重要なのは、これから始まる生活の方じゃないか。私は現状、執政官ではなく、君も補佐官ではない。つまり、二人で過ごしているこの時間は、要するに、かつてのように堅苦しく接したり、気を使う必要はないということだ。
I know, haven't been doing that on our journey together all along? Do you remember that night when we sailed through Lake Rumors? When I was on the ship reading, you gently shook my shoulder and said you had a surprise for me.
それは、祭日の花火をまともに見られなかったから、湖を使って埋め合わせをしただけだ。君が私にもたれて眠ってしまったのも、時間を忘れて話し込んでいたからだろう。
I believe that once we arrive at our destination, there will be even more moments like that night to cherish.
何かの終わりは何かの始まり。そう教えてくれたのはいつだって君の方だった。終わりだと思った私を君が励ましてくれたから、私は歩みを続け、再会することができた。今度こそ、私の方から、この先の未来を約束しよう。
It's a promise then. May the end of the journey be merely a moment in our eternal story together.